The Empathicary Podcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. All right, here we go. Another Empathicary podcast back at it while we're in between seasons on the Sandy and Toddcast.
I can't think of a better way to spend some time in between seasons than an Empathicary podcast episode.
We get so hung up on the Sandy and Todd, the Sandy and Toddcast, that we don't get to this one as much as I would like. And I think it's there's a lot of stuff that goes on that I think we can discuss and we can share.
Mm-hmm.
And this week we've got some interesting stories to pass along, especially from you, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I was listening to another podcast. It's actually my cousins Lisa and Tammy's podcast called Riding Side Saddle.
I love that name.
And they were talking about the empath and intuition side of things. And Lisa made a very interesting comment that you know when you listen to a podcast and you want to reach out because you have something you want to say to that person about what they're saying at that particular moment. She made the comment, and this I'm just generalizing here, that when she always thought things were intuition and they were always because she's an empath, she's realizing now that some of it is from past trauma or past life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true, but I think that's part of being intuitive and being an empath.
I agree.
Your empath and intuition come from past lives.
Right.
And some of the things you bring from past lives, but it certainly comes from things that you deal with in this life.
Exactly.
So it doesn't lessen those abilities. It actually grows your abilities to even more. And I think that's why sometimes people, as they get older in our age group or whatever, we realize we have intuition. We realize we're empaths. In some cases, you realize you're a medium because all these things that you basically learned in this life have created these abilities for you or have added to the abilities that you already had.
I think it opens up the doors.
Yeah.
It really, truly opens up the doors. I find it interesting. We were just talking about this recently. I edit and produce podcasts for a living. And I was editing a podcast episode, and these researchers were talking about stages of happiness in your life. And they said that the two happiest points in your life, they researched and followed a lot of people over an 80-year time span. So from children through senior citizens. And they found that the two happiest times of your life were sort of the first maybe quarter of your life. And then from maybe 50 years old and on. And I thought that was really interesting because those are the 2 points in your life where you kind of just are like, screw it. When you're a kid, you don't care. When you're a senior, you start to realize, look, I've had all of these life experiences. Where I am today is where I'm going to be for the next 30 years. So I'm going to start becoming who I am. I'm going to start being me. I'm not going to worry about how high I'm going to get on the corporate ladder, how much money I'm going to make in the next 10 years. Because by the time you're that age, you've made the money you're going to make. It's a little late to start trying to make really good choices and investments. This is where you are in your life. You can add a little bit to it, but we all kind of come to that understanding that this is who we are now, and let's enjoy the rest of our life. And I find that a great parallel sort of to people who discover their abilities. You a lot of times hear about young children who are adults now, but when they were young children, they knew. They would have experiences. They would be able to see and hear people who were no longer alive, different experiences. But then I see a lot of people just in my research and perusing the internet who say, well, it was a little bit later in my life that I started to realize, and I'm a perfect example. I didn't even realize I was an empath till I was in my mid-40s. And all this time, my whole life, I had no idea why I was feeling and experiencing the things I did. And so I think as you get older, it sort of parallels the whole happiness thing, is that you sort of become who you are. You sort of become who you're supposed to be, and you open up much more than I think you might when you're 36. You know,
Right.
and life is frantic, and you've got 4 kids, and you're trying to get that raise and that promotion at work, and you're trying to figure out how you're setting college money aside. By the time you get a little bit older, you're sort of settled into that, and you can open up your mind to new experiences and new things. So I just thought that was an interesting parallel that, believe me, not everything that I experience with the abilities that I have makes me happy, but I sort of am settling into that part of my life now where I say, okay, this is what I have to deal with. How can I make it a part of my life so that it doesn't make me upset, so that it doesn't hurt me, so that it doesn't scare me? Because I feel like as I go on, my abilities are, I'm getting different abilities, and I'm also getting stronger abilities, the ones I already have.
You had a very, very interesting thing happened in the
Mm,
last couple of weeks that, I still look at and go, what the fuck really happened
I
there?
know, me too.
And I've had a couple of things on a much smaller scale that I wanted to actually share before what happened with you even happened.
Yes, please.
And I thought, in my case, there's intuition involved. And I think with you, it's intuition and also, having the abilities of a medium and all that kind of stuff as well.
Mhm.
And I don't know what to say about what happened to me. And that's part of why I want to share it. Several weeks ago, I was, how this happens. You start getting on like Instagram Reels or Facebook stories and all that crap, or TikTok if you're on that. And before you know it, an hour's gone. In your case, it's YouTube and it's stories about Bigfoot or something like that.
Yeah, true crime, law and
Right.
crime.
And which, by the way, I have got a great story, and I think I might do like a mid-season
Ooh.
podcast of the Sandy and Toddcast, because I have got a story for you.
Ooh, I can't wait.
But I digress. So several weeks ago, I was doing that. I was kind of going through some things, and I came across Leslie Jordan. He is the comedian who has done a lot of stuff, primarily became very well known on Will and Grace for his character of Beverly Leslie, and also during the pandemic became very popular for what he was doing on Instagram.
Yep.
And funny guy, ended up recording some country music and all that kind of stuff. I ran across some of his stuff. Now, when I would do that in the past, I would stop and I would watch and I'd laugh and I'd watch a little bit more. Several weeks ago, I kind of did a deep dive, and I started not looking for his comedy, but I was looking for interviews and stuff like that because I really didn't know much about his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And, I found out stories, and you can find the stuff online that, his father was in the military and a very, man's man kind of thing. And here's little Leslie, throwing batons out in the front yard, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he tells a wonderful story about wanting a little bride doll for Christmas.
Boy.
And his dad's like, I can't buy him that. I can't do that. And that's all he wanted was this bride doll, this wedding doll. And his mom told him the story of Christmas Eve. She heard the door close and his dad got in the car and drove off and came back with this little doll for his son. And how touching that was. So I did a kind of a deep dive, and it was very, very touching. And like 2 days later, he passed away.
Wow.
And again, I'm a fan,
Mhm.
and I would stop for a few minutes here and there to watch this stuff and laugh and, giggle and whatever. But I just thought that was so weird. Why would that happen? So then, is it intuition? Is it coincidence?
Precognition.
I don't know.
That's precognition is an awful scary thing to think about.
Yes. Well, and then about 2 weeks ago, it was a weekend, and I was taking a bath. And I started listening to music, and I got hooked into Fleetwood Mac, and I specifically started listening to music from Christine McVie because she had a lot of solo stuff too. And I just remember thinking, I like Fleetwood Mac a lot, but I always tended to like her songs better than Stevie Nicks' songs. And I don't know why, but she had just a beautiful voice.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, she died.
Oh, that's interesting.
So again, I don't know if it's a premonition, if it's intuition. I don't know what's going on.
Well,
but it's really freaked me out because, we've just had a full moon and a lot of people were going through a lot of stuff and people were having trouble sleeping. And that's kind of like about when you had your experience with your situation. I just, I don't know. I've had some other things come to me in thoughts. And now I'm a little worried about if those are premonition, if they're intuition.
Well, it's a little bit like, if you ever heard the stories of, and this has actually happened to Dave and I a few times, stories of people in a car and they're traveling and they'll talk about something. And let's say Dave, for example, says, oh, my sister's favorite song was such and such. And 2 minutes later, the song comes on the radio. There are a lot of stories like that. And the thing about you is that you do have abilities. Okay. You don't have just empath abilities. Now, you have been very successful in being able to manage the empath in you as much as you can. You hold up your walls very, very well. But that doesn't mean, and you also have other abilities. I've been telling you this for 3 years. You have other abilities too. But it doesn't mean that these things aren't occasionally going to happen to you. I mean, what are the chances? And you have to always kind of think of it that way. What are the chances? It's sort of like when I did the spirit box back in July when my friend Tremaine passed away.
Yeah.
And you could very clearly hear my name in the spirit box. And both you and Dave sort of were speechless and didn't know. You have to think to yourself, what are the chances that my name, my nickname would come through there? And so you have to kind of look at it like that. You do have abilities. You just make the choice to block them as much as possible. But occasionally things are going to come in. Now, last year, right before you fell down the stairs and hurt your knee pretty badly, I had what I believe to be some sort of odd premonition. You were out visiting the home of your ancestors, and there was a cemetery you went to, and I said, look for the blackbirds. And there were no real blackbirds, but I do believe now, because 2 days later, what did you do? You fell down the stairs. Blackbirds tend to be an omen. These things are going to happen. They are going to happen. It is weird. I mean, but what are the chances that it would happen not once, but twice? The same sort of situation.
Right.
So do I think it was precognitive? I think it very well may have been,
Yeah.
And empaths, a lot of people who are empaths don't understand that these things can happen to empaths, not just people with psychic or medium abilities. These things can happen to empaths too. You have a direct link to feelings and emotions and energies. And if you're picking up on a weird, when Russia invaded the Ukraine back in February, I was a hot mess, and these are people that are all the way around the world, and I'm a mess. So it's entirely possible. Those are really interesting stories, like really interesting.
I'm going to throw one more quick story out. I think on the Sandy and Toddcast, or maybe here on the Empathic area, I shared a story about a couple of times that I had issues with doors in my house within the last several weeks, especially around Halloween. where I had movement of my bedroom door where it was closed and it's never closed while I was sleeping. And also the bathroom door handle turning, and I could distinctly hear it turning out in the hallway.
Yep.
Last Saturday, I got up, went out to the kitchen, grabbed a Diet Coke, sat my ass on the couch, and I was just, I was going to turn on the TV, and Draven was there with me, and I could hear the wind blowing, and I thought, my goodness, it's windy out. And I looked out on the porch, and the curtains in my porch were moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized my front door was wide open.
Wow.
And nobody had been in or out of that door for over a week.
So here's the thing about you with doors, and we've been over this many times, not so much on the air, but we've talked about this several times.
Yeah.
You do have energy in your home. And every once in a while, and it's something about you with doors, it's doorways. I've never been able to understand it. I can pick it up when I'm here, but I can also pick it up when I'm in the house. For some reason, you have some sort of tie to doorways. I don't know if it's some sort of symbolic, like this is how they come to you, is they literally open the door.
I think they're basically saying I'm going to be crossing over to the other side soon. I think it's a premonition.
They're like,
of that.
Here's the door, buddy. Don't let it hit you in the ass.
Pretty much.
But I don't know what it is with you indoors, but you tend to have a lot of energy around your doorways. Yeah. Whether it's the front porch, the outer porch door, the inner one, the side door, I get from you a lot. There is like something weird going on with that area.
That was probably something there that pushed me down the damn stairs that day.
Well, you never know. It may be.
I'll never walk the same again, ever.
No, you won't. But at least you don't have to carry around the enema bag. I'm just saying. I
think I'd rather carry around the enema bag because I could walk.
Listen, we got through an entire vacation with that enema bag.
Jesus Christ. 6 months earlier, enema bags. Second 6 months of my life. I don't even want to think what 2023 brings to it.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to either. We have a busy year this year, you and I. So let's hope everything works out for the best.
Well, let's talk about this because I just mentioned that we just came off a full moon and it was right about that time when you had a very interesting happen. And I will tell you that if it wasn't you, if somebody else had told me this story, I would have said, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said, you know, like almost like sleepwalking in your sleep or something like that. Yeah. I even asked you, like, are you sure that, blah, blah, blah. Well, so, I mean, share the story because it's pretty amazing.
I am still shaken up. As a matter of fact, Dave and I were just discussing it. I haven't discussed this with anyone. This is the first time I'm actually talking about this with anyone other than you, Dave, or I told my mother about it. I went to bed on a Friday night at about midnight. And we all wake up, not everybody, but most of us will wake up once or twice during the night. And it's my usual habit to roll over. I'll pick up the phone, see what time it is. And depending on if I'm wide awake or not, I'll check and see if I have any. I mean, this is just the business person in me, I guess, the crazy person. But I'll check to see if I have any emails. I'll go on Facebook real quick to see what's going on. And then I'll usually turn it off, roll back over. The whole thing is about 3 minutes long. So about 2:30 in the morning, I wake up, I roll over, I grab my phone. I see that it's about 2:30. I go onto Facebook, and someone who I know, who when I was full-time in radio, I did a lot of work with because she was the head of an organization not too far from me in Ilion, New York. And we did a fundraiser with them, and I would interview her a lot to get her name out. And I saw that she had posted something about St. Albans being on fire. And there were some pictures, but I was half asleep. So I didn't really look. I didn't look at the pictures. I didn't see the pictures when I looked. I just read what she read. And I was so tired. And the word school came into my head. Now, I don't know if I read the word school or what, but she was in Ilion about 15, 20 minutes from me. So I assumed in my head at this time that St. Albans was a school in Ilion. So I checked our local television station's Facebook page to see if there was anything. Now, mind you, it's 2:30 in the morning, but there was nothing there. And so I shut my phone down and rolled over and went back to sleep. So you and I, this was Saturday morning, you and I were recording for the Sandy and Toddcast that morning. And when I got up, I went and looked at her Facebook page again to get more information about what she said, because it was on my mind. And I didn't look at the pictures. You know how on Facebook it'll say +10 and you just don't look at any of the pictures.
Right.
So I said to myself, well, I'm going to see what happened last night. I go to her page. There is not one post about this on her page anywhere. And I go to the local TV station page. There is nothing. Now, this is a small enough area that if there was a fire in the middle of the night in our area, it would have been all over the place by then. There was nothing. So I go to record with you and I tell you about it. Not a big deal. And you're asking me all the questions that I would ask you if you told me this story. Are you sure you were awake? Are you, whatever,
I was on Google looking up St. Albans.
Yeah.
We were trying to find out where it was from.
I'm like, there's no St. Albans school. So I'm like, what the heck is going on? Now, an important thing to remember is that I rolled over, I went back to sleep, and I had a dream about being in a car driving towards a building. And I at this point assume that this dream is a direct result of the posts that I saw when I was awake on Facebook.
Right.
So in my dream, we're in a car. I think it's Dave and my mother in the car with me. And we're driving towards this burning building. And if you think of a griddle in a restaurant and how if you put grease on it and then you put a lighter to it, it kind of fans across and the flames don't get really high. They just sort of simmer across the whole griddle.
Right.
That's what it looked like in this dream that I had. So I knew I woke up. I said, Todd, I was awake. I was wide awake when this happened, but then I had a dream afterwards tied to what I saw when I was awake. Okay, end of story, because we didn't know what to make of it. I said, maybe I was lucid dreaming. I don't know what was going on. Dave was out for the day doing radio station stuff. When he got home about 8 o'clock, we were sitting there and I started to tell him about all of this. And we got thinking about it. And I said, well, Todd said there was a St. Albans in like New York City or something. So just for no reason that I consciously did, I Googled St. Albans fire. And sure enough, here comes an article from St. Albans, Vermont, which is 4 hours from my home. And it had been posted that day about a fire that had taken place in an abandoned building next to an elementary school at 11 o'clock the night before, which was an hour before I laid down to go to bed. And here's the kicker. So I'm just kind of staring at this and I'm like, what the fuck? So I kind of put my hand over my mouth a little bit and I scroll down and the picture in the article is the same exact picture that I saw in my dream that we were driving towards.
When you sent me the picture, because you were freaking out and you sent me the picture, I'm like, I thought you were joking. I thought you found a picture of something else and whatever, because it was exactly how you described it.
It was really, really weird. I laughed
like,
not because I'm happy.
You're like this flat surface and there's like this line of fire on it. And here's the other thing. When we were talking before we were recording and stuff, you said, well, I know there's a St. Albans, Vermont. You said that while we were talking.
And that's what's weird is because I don't know how I knew that. Like, I've never heard of St. Albans, Vermont. Why did I even say that?
I don't know, but you did. Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I honestly didn't know there was a St. Albans, Vermont. I've never been that far north in Vermont. The farthest that I've ever been was, where's Ben& Jerry's? I think that's Woodbury. I think that's about an hour and a half north of Bennington, maybe 2 hours. That's the farthest north I've been in Albans. I didn't even know. And it's funny that you caught that because I didn't know there was a St. Albans. Why am I saying that?
I don't know, because you were so certain it was an is it Ilion?
Ilion.
You were so certain it was from there because of this woman and her post and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I found the St. Albans in New York. And you're like, I know there's a St. Albans in Vermont, but.
And I didn't.
And you're like, maybe this woman has family there or something. You know, you were like.
I honestly don't know why I said that. And that's probably the scariest part to me is why would I say that? Because I don't know St. Albans, Vermont, right?
I wonder the tie-in with this woman, though. Like, so all this other stuff comes to fruition from your dream.
Mm-hmm. Well, but that's
the
thing, Todd, is that this is not precognition.
Right.
This is what scares me is this is something that is happening. So the whole entire thing was a dream. I thought I was wide awake for a part of it. I wasn't.
No.
This entire thing is happening as I'm dreaming it.
So my question, though, is where's this woman fall into where does the woman fall into the story now?
I don't know if it was just a random person that is on my face. Maybe I saw one of her posts earlier. She was born and raised in this area. There's no ties that I'm aware of that would tie her to that place.
Maybe she's got family there.
I went through
right?
her Facebook. I couldn't find anything. I can't find anything.
Listen, if anybody's going to find something, it's Sandy Jean.
I know.
It's Cassandra. That's how she got her name. Remember how she got her name?
I know, right? But I'm still shaken. I literally was crying after this because I thought to myself, it's one thing to have a premonition, to have a precognitive dream. It's another thing to dream something as it's happening. Literally, It was happening. The firefighters, it started around 11 o'clock in an abandoned building next to the elementary school. And it was burning like pretty much all night. So what the fuck, Todd? Like, I don't understand it. And I wish somebody who is well-versed in this would reach out to us and maybe help explain it to us because I don't know what to make of this. And this has really unsettled me because this is something that I've never experienced before. Like, I know what I can do and what I can't do. Some things have developed for me, but this is something that I've never experienced before in my life. I know my grandmother had some dreams. My grandmother was an empath at the very least. I know she had some precognitive dreams when she was alive. But back then, nobody understood it. Nobody realized what was going on back then.
Oh, we didn't even know, in our lives.
No.
No,
not at all.
Just that we were freaking crazy.
I know.
We were hearing things and seeing things and making things up.
I know. Quite dramatic with a great, imagination. But yeah, so that's my story. I have no idea. I, to this day, don't know why I said I know where St. Albans is because I don't. I have never even been close to St. Albans. There's a St. Albans like in West Virginia that's been on ghost shows. They have some kind of a place there that people can ghost hunt, but
why you? So why would you know this information? Why was it important for you to know it that you would pick it up? There's got to be a connection either with this woman or somebody in your family or in your life.
Do you think, I know this is one thing that's come into my mind, and I don't know how far reaching this is, but do you think it might have something to do with some sort of previous life?
Good. Right?
Because I can't find in my life, in my family, I mean, I pretty much know about my family. I even said to Dave, I said, we know a couple people from Vermont. Does anybody that is on your Facebook page from Vermont, did they post anything? Did the girl that I know who lives in Vermont? No, I checked her Facebook page. So I don't think it's anybody from my circle or Dave's circle.
But just because it's not on their Facebook doesn't mean it didn't somehow affect them. Like somebody they knew or I
know. I don't know. It's like, what's that kind of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? Like, you know, everybody's connected to Kevin Bacon in some way. It's kind of the tongue
Yeah,
in
and Six
cheek.
Steps. Yep,
Yeah, yeah,
yep.
yeah. So who knows? Maybe it's somebody who knows somebody, but why was I chosen to be the one to know this? Because 100% of what I dreamed is true.
Except for this woman, the
Except for
posting
this
of the woman, right?
Except for this woman. Like, was
That
she
you know.
just somebody that I saw her post before I went to bed? Because I always go through
So my
Facebook.
question is, why haven't you reached out to her? Why haven't you
I'm a
just said,
little
"Hey,
nervous. I'm a little nervous, to be
Okay,
honest with you. I
because
will. I probably
you
will.
because you might find out that there's a connection there."
I don't know. Or, because this is kind of something weird, and I don't want to make her nervous either by saying, this is what I dreamed, and you were in this dream, and this is really
I don't know that you
strange.
necessarily have to go that deep into it, because what you could do is just open the door, say, "Hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, dreamt about you the other night. And, it was something weird about a Facebook post, and there was a fire in St. Albans," and just leave it at that. And so I thought I'd reach out and say, "How you doing?"
All
Now,
right.
if she goes, "Oh, that's weird because I have a blah, blah, blah in St. Albans and the school next to them burned down," then you kind of.
Yeah. I'm going to. I will. It's just a hard thing to think about. I guess part of me is like really interested, but part of me is a little nervous to find out if there was.
Of course.
So I don't know, because this has never happened to me before. This is really strange. Like, I don't know. I don't even know why I said I knew where St. Albans was, because I don't. Unless, like I said, maybe it's some tie to a previous life. Maybe I did know where it was in a previous life. I don't know.
Maybe you are. Maybe you were St. Albans.
Maybe I
You
was.
never know.
Maybe I became St. Albans. But
Sandy Albans.
So I don't know, but it was very creepy, very freaky. I still don't know what to make of it. I don't know. It's hard to think about it too much because it just kind of throws me off. It's a little too much of a creepiness factor for me at this point, but I will reach out to her to be continued, and we'll see if she says anything to me about it. So
I just looked up St. Alban. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I thought, well, maybe there's a tie to that. St. Alban, and I'm going to be using words that I really don't know. I guess it's all religious shit.
Okay.
St. Alban is venerated as the first recorded British Christian martyr, for which reason he's considered to be the British proto-martyr. Along with fellow saints Julius and Aaron, Alban is one of 3 named martyrs recorded at an early date from Roman Britain. I don't know that that's a tie, but
Nope.
maybe.
Is he
There's
like
also-
the saint of, how like there's St. Francis is the saint of animals?
Just that he was considered to be the British proto-martyr.
I don't know what that means.
First recorded British Christian martyr.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe we should dig into him a little bit too.
He's Britain's first saint. His grave on the hillside quickly became a place of pilgrimage, blah, blah, blah. I think you should look this up. There's also St. Albans Cathedral there in the UK.
Well, I'm going to, maybe that's the approach. Maybe it isn't the location itself that's the tie. Maybe it's the saint. So
Could be.
Well, I will reach out to her to be continued, and maybe we'll follow up on the next episode or the Sandy and Toddcast. We'll figure it out, and we'll see if there's any tie at all. But yeah, really, it's a little bit exciting because it's something that is so out there that I have no idea what to think about it. And at the same time, it's kind of scary for me too, because if this is something, I don't want this to happen a lot, because this really scares me.
I know exactly when the door opened for you, though, to this stuff. And it was when you walked into the black mist. That moment, that's when you received the powers.
Let's revisit the black mist. I thought you were going to say when I danced on Augusta Gein's grave. The old throwback.
Could be that too. Went on the property there that said, do not enter. And
While you two wimps stayed in the car, I'm like, screw this. I'm never going back to Ed Gein's property again. I'm just trespassing. That's it. So,
Well, okay. If you haven't caught up on the Sandy and Toddcast, you should. I actually talked to somebody a couple weeks ago that said, "Oh, I just finished up season 3. Is there anything new?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's like 3 more seasons."
yeah,
So
a lot.
get listening.
You know, that's funny you say that because a lot of people have been reaching out to me lately saying I'm on season 4, episode 8.
Yep.
And I love that people are listening from the beginning because you can really see how we've progressed over the seasons. And the main thing people like is us and what we bring to it. And that makes me very happy because I love doing this.
I think they like you. I think they they tolerate me. I'm tolerable, and that's about it.
We have a good chemistry, you know that.
All right, so make sure and catch up on that and enjoy the holiday season.
Yes.
And we may have another Empathic Harry before the new year. You never know. We may be doing a couple of other things as well. So whatever, but stick around. Thanks for being a part of it. And if you've got empath stories, you can certainly pass them along to us as well, or questions or whatever.
Please do. Questions, comments, stories. We are here. Money. Any kind of money, PayPal, Venmo. And but we're here and we'd like to be able to discuss them. I love doing this podcast because there are so many of us out there who are on this journey together and we're just learning as we go along. So,
all right. Hey, thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, thanks for listening.
Yeah, it was a crazy one. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.